Did you know that the Tambora volcano eruption in Indonesia, which is considered the largest volcanic event of the last 200 years, had an indirect effect on the classic works of horror literature? The Tambora volcano eruption in 1815 had a direct impact on the development of horror literature. Frankenstein and the Vampire, Dracula's ancestor, were written in the same house, inspired by this explosion. This explosion was so effective that, in addition to the development of literature, it pushed states into administrative rule, ended the Napoleonic Wars, and ignited some inventions such as the bicycle. Let's briefly explain what kind of processes the Tambora explosion created that would trigger horror literature through the stories I mentioned above. In 1815, the most violent eruption of all time experienced by humanity took place at Tambora volcano in Indonesia. Temperatures drop all over the world because of the ash covering the atmosphere. Europe has been in the Napoleonic Wars for the last 12 years. Both the Tambora disaster and the destruction caused by the long war lead to famine throughout the world, especially in Europe, but the Napoleonic Wars ended 2 months after the explosion. Napoleon lost the famous Battle of Waterloo due to excessive rain, and mud turned into a swamp. That year, Europe receives an unprecedentedly high amount of rain. The reason for this is that Tambora ashes cause a short circuit in the ionosphere layer where clouds form and trigger rains. Tambora volcano, which killed 100,000 people, ironically gave the world a message of "make love, not war." Having finished the war, Tambora's next step is to contribute to world horror literature. The summer of the year after the Tambora eruption is almost like a winter. Snowfall occurs in June and July. The summer of 1816 goes down in history as the year without a summer. The crops fail to grow, and a potato famine begins in Ireland. In Ireland and England, the whole summer is filled with continuous rain. After the famine, a typhus epidemic begins. Nearly 100,000 people die. The deaths of animals used in transportation, such as horses, reached such a point that the first pedalless bicycle was invented in 1817 by Carl Dries von Sauerbrunn to pull loads. One of the darkest periods in Europe is experienced.